Dad, I'm kind of confused about terrorism. I'm really confused about what terrorism means. What does it mean? Shut up, I'm trying to find freaking Glenn Beck. I heard Lindsey Graham say, well, Dad, what? Hold on, son. I'm trying to find Glenn Beck. Is he moved? Where's Sean Hannity? Where's Rush Limbaugh? Where's Sarah Palin? Fox? Well, Dad, I looked up the definition of terrorism. They would be terrorists. Dad, you think about it. When this happened in Boston, did those two little cowards terrorize anyone? Yeah, they're terrorists. You know, there's a sleeper cell. That's what Glenn Beck says. That's what Lindsey Graham... No, Dad, that means they want this to happen. They beg and clamor for this to happen. These neocons, they're sick. They're cowards, Dad. They're cowards. They want terrorism. They're trying to perpetrate terror. What do you mean, son? Shut up. Didn't I buy you a car? Yeah, Dad, but we have no jobs. I can't compete with 37 cents. Well, we have to have this terror. You know, you can go join the military. I don't want to join the military. But that's the only job there are, son. Well, wouldn't that be the definition of fascism, Dad? Dad, wait a minute. I looked up. Look, this is a book one of my teachers gave me from 1973. This is a book they gave me. That's 1973, Dad. Remember 72? You were alive. Did you like the Olympics? Mark Spitz? How can you possibly forget? Terrorism has always been a piece of America, or the world. Terrorism has always been here. They talked about the English burning down the White House in 1812. The Sons of Liberty. Paul Revere. George Washington. Dad, you know George Washington was called a terrorist by England. Do you know he was tried for treason in England? So was all of them. Ben Franklin, what about him? Son, hurry. I'm trying to find Glenn Beck. Dad, the definition of terrorism. Who's the terrorist? None of those people were scared when those two people... They ran right to those people when we're helping them. So who's the terrorist? The Justice Department, Dad. They're the terrorists. This is from 1973. By the way, any of you educators, this is a brilliant series to use. It's a brilliant article. Dad, they talked about the assassination of McKinley. Now what's a terrorist? Really, what is a terrorist? No, son, there are things you need to be afraid of. Like these. No, Dad, you're right. We need to be afraid of things, but not what you're afraid of. How come your generation is so afraid? I didn't see any of those people being afraid in Boston when they ran to help them because all the social engineering, this television, all this bullshit, this posture, this groom, this reactionary, ridiculous hyperbole. The guys like Lindsey Graham and Hairspray, it's the same as homosexuality. They're all afraid of homosexuality because they think they're afraid because deep down inside they're a terrorist. Deep down inside they have some homosexual tendencies and they think they've been social engineered through religion to think it's evil. No, son, I bought you a car. Dad, Glenn Beck's a terrorist. Lindsey Graham's a terrorist. These people, Paul Wolford's is a terrorist. They're all terrorists. These are not terrorists. What do? Post-ignorance. Dad, this is what we need to be afraid of. Cancer, Fukushima. Dad, come on. Wake up. What is the matter with your generation? Why are you such a coward? Glenn Beck's a terrorist. By definition, what's a terrorist? These guys were murderers, not terrorists. There's a big difference. Raining terror in your populace. That's what Glenn Beck does. These people want terrorists. Don't you see, Dad? Son, I don't know what you're talking about. How can you be so repressed? How can you send your jobs to China, steep Chinese jobs? How can you worship athletes kumbaya at Boston Red Sox? How can these guys are making 10, 15 million a year, Dad? You won't make $1 million your whole life. You're broke. You know, I heard you and Mom talking. Your house, you owe more on it than it's worth. Your cars, you owe more than it's worth. Dad, why do you let these people do this to you? Not me. Not me, Dad. Not me, Dad. I gotta run over to Burger King and get us some hamburgers. Hurry, I don't feel good. Hey, grab those pills out of the freaking thing. Son. Yeah. Well, what about Grandpa? He had guns. Yeah, he was a Special Forces Marine, son. Yeah, but he didn't have no handguns, Dad. He had a rifle and a Brownie shotgun. Your generation's lost it, Dad. I'm not going to be you, Dad. I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid. Lindsey Graham's a terrorist. I'm not scared of him. I'm not scared of Glenn Beck. He's a terrorist. He does not scare me. He scares you. Stand to it.